What if Bitcoin could hit hundreds of trillions of dollars per market cap? Well, Michael Saylor just exposed the ultimate bull case once again on legacy mainstream media. He actually had this interview on the floor of Bitcoin 2025 with Mackenzie Sagalos. In fact, the Simply Bitcoin booth was literally across from it. Why is he so convinced that Bitcoin is going to hit these ridiculously high levels? Is it because the $300 trillion market cap is literally the $300 trillion bond market is melting down right now? Or could it be that he knows something that we all do not? Anyways, we're going to roll the clip and then we're going to talk about it. And of course, I'm here with my legendary co-host who's wearing the Pepe shirt, Opti.
Shouts out G-Money, Digital 1776.
All right, let's check out the clip.
We're all stronger together. If the country is going to overcome its challenges, and if the industry is going to overcome its challenges, we're going to do it by creating hundreds of trillions of dollars of value. And the big unlock here is not technology. The big unlock is a regulatory breakthrough, which is define a digital token, a digital security, and a digital currency. The industry will grow by a factor of 100, who knows what, to 100 trillion or more. Bitcoin will march into the hundreds of trillions. The nation will benefit. The industry will benefit. The world will benefit. That's our path forward.
All right, so Michael Saylor lays the case out, and of course, joining us today, we have Paul Tarantino, the CEO of ByteFederal, one of the United States' largest Bitcoin ATM companies, joining us on the show today. And of course, we're going to do a deep dive with Paul during the culture segment. Anyways, going back to Michael Saylor's clip. So he's kind of saying the quiet part out loud, ladies and gentlemen, just to kind of give you a perspective. It's like, Nico, what does hundreds of trillions of dollars in market cap mean, right? So let's pull up, of course, the famous Jesse Myers, graphic that has been sorted and sourced on so many different types of presentations. And this is what Michael Saylor is talking about in essence. And we're going to tie this in to the bond market. The bond market is $300 trillion. And we all remember what Max Keiser was saying about the bond market as it relates to MicroStrategy. This is Max Keiser a couple days ago. He says the global bond market won't survive MSTR. Mike's about to become the Iron Bank of the new Game of Thrones the world finds itself in. Call him Iron Mike. And he goes on to say, and Michael Saylor specifically released a product on the NASDAQ, a ticker STRD, specifically for bond investors, right? And of course, offering significantly higher returns. I think that for fixed income, I think it's like 10%. It's insane, right? So anyways, so let's kind of break down the opportunity here, right? So Bitcoin's currently sitting pretty at a $2 trillion market cap. The gold market cap is at $22 trillion, right? So $22 trillion, that's a 10x. So from 2 trillion to get to 22 trillion, that's a 10x. 10x Bitcoin from where it is right now, that's north of $1 million per coin. But what I want you guys to focus on, and I think this is where Michael Saylor gets his confidence when he's just dropping numbers like, dude, it's going to be in the hundreds of trillions, basically. And so far, Michael Saylor has proven to be absolutely right. I mean, the performance of MicroStrategy over the last 5 years since 2020, should tell you everything you need to know, right? He first made this announcement, I believe, at the Bitcoin conference, Bitcoin 2021 in Miami. Remember, he had that conversation with Max Keiser on stage. Legacy Media was covering it. They were kind of making fun of him. He had to earn his stripes, as all Bitcoiners do. He had to, pay his price of tuition. The Bitcoin price corrected, I think it was like 60, 70% during the 2023, the 2022, 2023 bear market. And then Michael Saylor was vindicated. Like all of us Bitcoiners become vindicated when eventually, you get one cycle in. And of course, it's proven that his strategy with his company strategy is fantastic. I mean, he grew the market cap of his company from 500 million to 100 billion. That's insane. I mean, this is a 20-year vindication story, right? And the episode that he did with Jordan Peterson, I think it has like 300,000 or 400,000 views. He was basically making the case. He's like, "Look, I didn't understand what was going on. I tried everything. Like I tried rebuying the stock. I was working my employees harder than ever. We were trying marketing. We were trying this, and we still couldn't catch up to Microsoft, and we couldn't understand. But simultaneously, I remember identifying very similar patterns to what would happen to the world when the smartphone would get introduced. And he wrote the book, The Mobile Wave, where he correctly predicted that this thing, which is basically a computer in your hand, would absolutely change human society. And he put, I believe, from the interview, $25 million of his own money into the companies that he felt were at the forefront of that, which of course was Apple with the iPhone. It completely changed the world. If you guys remember the BlackBerry days, the BlackBerry to the iPhone, maybe the iPhone 5, because the first iPhones were like, but the iPhone 5, like you could play videos, like it really changed everything. And he saw that same pattern with this company, but he was like, wait, so like, am I just gonna like, take the cash and like buy another stock? No, that's overvalued. Real estate doesn't make sense. Gold. And then he had the conversation with Eric Weiss and he was like, hey, tell me more about this Bitcoin thing. And then he went down the rabbit hole and then he realized, oh my God, this solves a problem. And then he had first mover advantage, and that describes, of course, MicroStrategy's success. Now, here we are sitting a couple years later, right? 2025. Turns out he was right. You have Bitcoin treasury companies popping up all around the world. This is an international phenomenon, right? And this is why he's talking about this. So Bitcoin, $2 trillion asset, 0.2% of the global wealth. We know it's superior to gold. We know it has absolute scarcity. We know it beats gold's physical characteristics. Gold is heavy. Gold is hard to transport. Bitcoin is easy to transport. Bitcoin, you could send it anywhere around the world instantaneously. It has absolute scarcity. Gold has scarcity, but not absolute scarcity. Big difference there, right? It's easy to custody. Gold is not easy to custody, specifically if you have large amounts of it. And think about this for a second. What are bonds backed by? The full faith and credit. Bitcoiners believe, right? It's in our ethos. We're not a trust me, bro type of community. We're a don't trust, verify type of community, right? And what happens if all of a sudden Bitcoin starts to prove that it's just a better, more safe, conservative, I'm going to say that word, place to park your wealth versus bonds, right? And the bond market is currently sitting at $318 trillion. So this is where Michael Saylor is saying, this is where he's getting it from, right? This is why he's saying, this is why he's so confident that Bitcoin eventually, inevitably, is going to reach hundreds of trillions of dollars in market cap. And remember, his 20-year prediction, his 2045 prediction of $13 million per Bitcoin. That's his base case. His bear case, I believe, is 3 million, and his bull case, I believe, is 49 million, which is absurd. Can't believe that. So, anyways, Paul, you're the CEO of one of the largest Bitcoin ATM companies in the United States. I'm sure you have the expertise, the knowledge to talk about this kind of sophisticated topic. Is Michael Saylor, overly bullish? Is he overly optimistic about Bitcoin's future potential?
No, I think he's spot on. We've got this 100 trillion would be the first epoch, right, where we're going to see the destruction of debt around the world. That debt has that those dollars have to find a home or be lost forever. So the logical solution is gold and Bitcoin. And if you're going to lever that into a future with AI and a future where technology is dominant, you're going to want to go into Bitcoin. So I think he's spot on, and I'm just looking forward to riding this wave.
Yeah, absolutely. And could you break down a little bit about that, right? Which is this world of AI and this world of Bitcoin. And you said that it was going to eliminate debt. Is that what you said?
I didn't say that AI is going to eliminate
No,
debt, but
sorry,
it will
Bitcoin.
have an impact on it.
Yeah.
Because if AI is deflationary and corporations are going to be driving towards a diminishing bottom line, debt and around the world is going to become less and less valuable, because to offset that deflationary impulse, governments will have to inflate. That's the only, otherwise the debt becomes unpayable, right? So the way to pay off debt without having the income is to inflate the currency. So you could see that the devaluation of the dollar is correlated to correlated to this destruction of the debt around the world, and bondholders are going to have to find a new home. So that 300 trillion of capital is going to have to go somewhere. And I think these traditional bond investors are going to wake up in phases as their career, as their returns, as they mark to market and have to look out into a competitive landscape. They're going to have to pursue alternatives, and they're going to be Bitcoin alternatives.
Yeah, and that's absolutely mind blowing. And I mean, I think there's going to be deep consequences, Paul, to just society and kind of business in general. I do want to give a shout out to the live stream, by the way. Just broke 1,000 live viewers between YouTube and X, and I want to give a shout out, of course, to the Rumble stream going in hard. 450 live viewers on Rumble. So if you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. So, I mean, like Paul, so the bond market, I mean, that is a staple of traditional finance. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
what are the consequences of, some of that market being basically sucked into the Bitcoin black hole? Like, how would that change the traditional markets?
Well, I think we're going to see a few changes. I mean, first of all, big picture, right? It's a shift from a debt-based economy to an equity-based economy. So in phases like this, you will see gold, Bitcoin, and individual stocks as a life raft, and they'll perform in that order: Bitcoin, gold, and stocks. Um, but that life raft is there because the debt is dying, and you need to get to this other side. On that, in between there, people that are going to try and save the life raft are going to try and save the bond market, are going to put the life raft under it, right? So we're going to see Bitcoin bonds, we're going to see Bitcoin-backed treasuries, any number of things where Bitcoin, this asset, is used to support the sinking ship. So, but I think those are only temporary fixes. I think we end longer term, further out, well beyond 100 trillion in Bitcoin market cap, where we're living now in an equity-based society, where there is hopefully no debt behind any of the global currencies.
And what is so? And let's talk about that, right? Because it seems like you've spent some time thinking about this. You've spent some time analyzing this. What is an equity-based society versus a debt-based society? Like, what are the biggest differentiators between the two?
I think the biggest differentiator is that your assets are no one else's liability. Like right now, the way we live our life, everything that we own is a liability on somebody else's balance sheet, or vice versa. So when we, for example, borrow money to buy a house, we have a liability, the bank has an asset. And in an equity-based society, you're going to need to borrow against your assets, so that there's no infinite leverage, right? There's no rehypothecation. And so you will have to acquire wealth, you'll have to acquire assets in order to convince somebody to lend to you. Where right now the banks create money out of thin air, right? So if you've got you want to buy a house, the bank will generate capital out of thin air, or generate money out of thin air, so that you can buy that house. And now it's your liability. But in the future, you could see in a Bitcoin denominated future, equity-based future, where you've got the collateral prior, and that collateral is backing that debt, so one for one. This is like, the future that Caitlin Long saw with her bank. This is a future that the traditional banks are going to fight, but this is where society prospers. In the past, when we've had money circulating through our system backed by real assets like gold, um, the humanity has done really, really well, because you're not getting infinite leverage. You're not exceeding that equity base with stacking so much debt on top of it that leads to these exaggerated boom and bust cycles. So we could see a compressed business cycle, less volatility. We could see more prosperity, and people just doing things that are right for them, making smart financial decisions because they're limited by the assets that they've been able to acquire. Whereas if you could take advantage of a system now, borrow infinitely, leverage infinitely, and look really smart for a time being, and then have it all reverse on you and get it washed out. This is I think a lot of us experienced this in 2008, and we learned from it. And hopefully we're transitioning to a future where we're not participating in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I also too, Paul, as I was connecting the dots while you were talking about that, it also seems like this type of future is a future for the middle class, right? Like I feel like the middle class is able to get ahead, because I think a lot of people have this kind of like misunderstanding, because in this kind of debt-based, society that we live in, this every time they print money, we saw this in 2008 and we saw this in 2020 and 2021, right? Every time they print money, it's really the only people that benefit from it are the government and the very wealthy that do have the means to save in assets. But the lower and middle classes that don't have the means to save in assets, in fact, they're living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe they have a little bit of savings. They're getting destroyed. They're not. They're actually making less money than the year before, right? And I
Yep.
think society fundamentally perhaps is aware of that. Perhaps they're feeling the pain. Perhaps people just don't understand where the dysfunction is coming from. But yeah, I mean, could you talk a little bit about that? About how, Bitcoin essentially is going to revitalize the middle class, which is, really the backbone of an economy.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the comments right now. Um,
Yeah, they're going wild.
yeah, so
We
let's
got
see,
the we got the Bitcoin Tom Cruise in the house,
yeah,
baby.
exactly.
Well, Nico, we did get a super chat, and it was Vake, and he goes, shouts out Vake, and he goes, $5. Whoa, Tom Cruise is on today's show. Let's go. And also one more, shouts out Ron P for the $20. Appreciate it. All right, Paul, keep going.
All right, where were we? What were we even talking about now? I got sidetracked.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I guess the thing that comes to mind is like the golden era, right? And yeah, under these kind of environments, you have a meritocracy. If you do well, if you're a trusted participant in the economy, and you can generate valuable products for people that they're willing to pay for, you're going to benefit from that. And then you're going to have spending power. It's not going to be a privileged society where those, like you said, closest to the bank are be able to borrow more at a lower rate and leverage that into assets and basically excel far beyond their ability to provide value to humanity. So it is a great leveler. And this is why the big banks do not like what we're talking about. This is why they've hated Bitcoin from the beginning, and continue to push and maintain and try and maintain leverage and rehypothecation and lots of lending in the system, because this is how they make money as a middleman, and this is how they play their games. Those games aren't like going to die immediately overnight. It's going to continue, but it's going to become less and less valuable as Bitcoin starts to absorb the capital stack of the world.
100%, man. And I love the meritocracy aspect of that, because I think we've shied away from that as a society. And I think it's been I think it's been somewhat negative. You want a meritocracy. And it's kind of
100%.
been villainized a little bit.
Yeah.
Opti, do you want to chime in here? I mean, dude, we got effing Tom Cruise in the house today.
Lol. Well, to that last point that Nico said, it is very interesting to see that in popular culture, or rather mainstream culture right now, the meritocracy word is like a dirty word. It's like a very, toxic word. And from a Bitcoiner's perspective, this is what we talk about. It's like provide value to society, eliminate people that are trying to extract resources, extract the wealth from everyone else. Like, this is the goal of what's going on here. And as Paul was saying earlier, this is a fundamental shift from where we are currently in society. This is the status quo. This is what everyone kind of sees going on in the world right now. And everyone thinks it's completely normal. But there is an alternative, and this is why we always talk about Bitcoin. This is why we're true believers of Bitcoin. This is why we're all in on Bitcoin, and we make our job and our whole business wrapped around Bitcoin, because we do fundamentally believe it's going to bring in a better world. Now, on the Saylor prediction here, it does seem like he is just getting more and more bullish right now, even though, we're seeing the price kind of go down a little bit. It did hit like 102 last night. It's back around 105 last time I checked it this morning. We're at basically all-time highs. We're at what, like 3% down from all-time high? Nico, I'm hearing this. I don't know if you guys heard that. Okay. The price of Bitcoin is super strong, and yet no one is really paying attention. I know, and Nico's been a perma bear on the show. He's starting to become a fiat maxi. Maybe we got to rebrand to simply fiat here.
What?
I'm just trolling. It's so easy to get Nico rage bait over here. Okay. But you're starting to see, with what we're talking about, Bitcoin treasury companies, and Paul, is jumping in that boat as well. We'll talk about that later on the show. You're starting to see that a lot of capital is being unleashed. It's the very beginning of that capital being unleashed. And you're starting to see that there is obviously better regulation surrounding Bitcoin. The banks are starting to talk about custodying Bitcoin. We are kind of back to the 2017, like blockchain, all the things, memes popping up. I've been seeing, a lot of stable coin talk and blockchain, not Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we are in the beginning. And of course, these institutions, these big players aren't going to just come into Bitcoin and be fully Bitcoiners yet. They're not all Nayib Bukele out here, but they're going to have to learn. And when you really look at that Croesus chart, again, the simple meme or the memetics that Bitcoiners have been saying for a long time is just that money is 1/2 of every transaction in the world. What money is 1/2 of all value in the world. Now, this is why Saylor is going, hundreds of trillions. We did play it, I forget if it was last week or the beginning of this week, but he was saying it's going to 400 trillion with the idea of it's 1/2 of all the value in the world. And I did a quick little, chat GBT over here. $400 trillion market cap is a $19 million per Bitcoin. And if you move that up another 100 trillion, I don't know what the math is. Someone can fact check me in the chat right now. But it's safe to say that Saylor's base case of $13 million, I think he's overshooting, or rather undershooting that. And now he's going even more bullish. We did hear him say, again, everything's a blur here, but we did recently hear him say that he is moving up his base case from 29% CAGR to 30% CAGR. And the compounding effects of that literally shoots it from about 13 million to like 16 million. So even if these numbers seem ridiculous to you, and everyone in the chat's like, okay, but like win 150K, win 200K, I think it's coming soon. We are zooming out here for the new ones here, the newbies in the chat, the new Simply Bitcoin audience that are finding us and basically telling them, hey guys, look, zoom out, stack Bitcoin, hold it long term. It's going up forever. These ridiculous price points are going to be a reality. A lot of Bitcoiners in the early days, 2010, 2012, they would have laughed at you if you said 100K Bitcoin in 10 years? I think we will have the last laugh in the future, and we're just on the same trajectory right now. All of the world's wealth, or rather half of the world's wealth, conservatively will most likely, or maybe bullishly, will most likely end up in Bitcoin. So, hey, you might want to get some in case it catches on.
Absolutely. I'll give bars to that. Also, quick
Guy's abusing my soundboard.
quick observement. Opti's been in Miami less than a month, and his buttons are all they've reached there.
Hey guys, it's hot
Nice.
and humid, and I've always been a 3-button maxi, so it's not new.
So Opti's embracing the South Florida Miami-ness. I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. 1,500 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X, and 500 of you guys watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button and give us a follow. Subscribe to us if you're on YouTube. Follow us if you're on Rumble, and follow us if you're on Twitter as well. Guys, we have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. We're going to talk about so many things. Coinbase has been dropping amazing commercials. I mean, propaganda, basically covering, like, hey, why are houses getting cheaper on Bitcoin and getting more expensive on dollars? How come they're printing so many dollars? Seems like Coinbase is shifting. They're getting away from those coins and they're moving more towards Bitcoin. They dropped this like Coinbase credit card, which was like American Express and all this stuff. I don't know. That was pretty cool. And then during the news segment, we're going to be talking about something that I think we all saw last night, which is something happened in the Middle East. And we're going to be making the case as to why buy Bitcoin and war. How did we get there? How does fiat fuel the war machine? And we're going to be doing a deep dive on that. And then, of course, during the culture segment, we got Paul Tarantino, the CEO of ByteFederal, one of the largest Bitcoin ATM companies in the United States. And we're going to be talking to him, doing a deep dive. So it's going to be a hell of a show, guys. You guys are going to want to stay tuned, because we're just getting started. But before we jump into today's show, I do want to give a shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Why is the best place? Because it's automatic self-custody. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. Meaning they don't even let you leave the funds on the exchange, which of course perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos, because after all, the only way to achieve sovereignty is by putting your Bitcoin in self-custody. When you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points, and you could use those points towards a variety of prizes, including a Simply Bitcoin hoodie. Also, you can use those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest, which we're going to be doing live for you guys right now, tossing a coin into the Wishing Well every single time you win, and you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats. Today's prize is 578 sats, so a first person to scan it with their Lightning wallets has got that prize. If you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, you get 3 tosses into the Wishing Well. Every single toss, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. Guys, stay tuned. It's going to be an incredible show. We're going to cover a variety of topics. Smash the like button. Thank God it's Friday. It's a Friday special. We'll be back in just 1 second. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today. All right, everybody, scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you directly to the stampseed.com website. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 105,640. Block height, 901,110. Sats per dollar, 947. Market cap, 2.1 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 8.66%. Percentage issued, 94.65%. Decline from all-time high, negative 5.7%. Realized monetary inflation continuing to take fiat currencies to absolute school, 0.85%. Anyways, Coinbase has been dropping these absolutely amazing commercials, and they've been absolutely fantastic. I got a couple lined up for you guys. Let's check them out.
In 2012, you'd need 30,000 Bitcoin to buy this house. A decade later, it had only cost you 20 Bitcoin. And today, it could be yours for 5. If home prices keep falling in Bitcoin, why do they keep rising in dollars?
I mean, very, very important question. You guys know that I love the phrase, the Overton window. Why do they keep rising in dollars and why do they keep dropping in Bitcoin? What's going on there? Anyways, let's check out the second one.
Every day, the Fed prints an average of $465 million. That's 26,000 shipping containers a year, created out of thin air. Maybe that's why the dollar loses value over time. But there's one thing they can never print more of: Bitcoin. At the size of a quarter, this is all there will ever be. Shouldn't a store of value hold its value?
I mean, I think the house one was a little bit more impactful personally, because I think it like connects it to that. I think it's like very difficult for you to like even get a sense of how much money is printed. But yeah, I mean, this is what you do. This is I think we've coined this term here at Simply Bitcoin, narrative trench warfare on the battlegrounds of the internet, and moving over that Overton window, really getting people to realize that, hey, you know what? The American dream is not dead. You're just using the wrong unit of account. The American dream is thriving. In fact, the American dream has been exported all around the world. All you got to do is switch your unit of account. All you got to do is switch your currency. So, and I'm also kind of glad as well, of course, we primarily support, Bitcoin only companies. And of course, we recommend Bitcoin Well as your Bitcoin on-ramp, of course. But I'm glad that Coinbase, which is included in the S&P 500, has shifted a little bit. They've shifted away from the whole altcoin stuff, and they're shifting more so to the Bitcoin stuff. And why am I saying that? All these commercials have been about Bitcoin, number one. Number two, the credit card that they just released, which looks sick, by the way. It's like metal. It has the white paper on it. They teamed up with Amex, American Express. That gives you Bitcoin cash back. And shout out to Gemini too, because Gemini, I believe, released one as well. And of course, Fold. And those are all Bitcoin cash back. It isn't like Cardano cash back, or I don't even know the names of altcoins these days. Pepe cash back or something. Opti's wearing a Pepe shirt. But anyways, you guys get the point, right? So Bitcoin's winning. The Overton window is shifting. And I think it's just a matter of time. So I'm going to pass it on to Paul. Paul, that is a very strong message. That was a 30-second commercial. They got a lot across, a lot of information across regarding, why are housing prices getting more expensive in dollars, and why are they getting more expensive? Why are they getting less expensive in Bitcoin? Paul.
It's good to see Coinbase catch up with the Bitcoin crowd. I mean, they're figuring it out. Bitcoin is the only source of real money. And you guys spoke about like this new phase. Opti, we're talking about the new phase of Bitcoin adoption in this era at the corporate and Wall Street level, and they're shitcoining, right? It's blockchain, everything. It's you got to have more. You got to have a portfolio. You got to have more than one coin. They're the new adopters, and they're going through the exact same thing we all went through in 2014, 2017, 2021. So this is just part of the cycle. You discover Bitcoin, you think that big blockchain is this new innovation that's going to change the world. You want to have more than Bitcoin because you feel like you maybe missed out. You make those mistakes, you learn, you come back to Bitcoin. Coinbase is doing a great job with their marketing, with the number of incentives on their platform to trade shitcoins. I'm not into that. I'm sure it's a moneymaker for them. It's kind of like probably going into the grocery store. You get your meat, your vegetables, your milk, your dairy around the sides, and then there's all this crap in the middle. That's kind of like the trading of shitcoins, in my mind. So anyways, that's where I'm at with it. The marketing's awesome, and good to see them supporting Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way that you phrase that, right? Which is like they're kind of going through it late to the point. I mean, they had the opportunity to be this first mover advantage. Coinbase only has 8,000 Bitcoin on their treasury. I mean, this is a company that was founded in 2013. And Michael Saylor is just putting them to shame because he just focused on Bitcoin only. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know. So, they're finally, seeing the light. I agree with you, Paul. I don't think they're going to get rid of, an extremely profitable part of their business. But they are seeing the signs, and they are, and at the end of the day, I love market incentives because fundamentally, I don't think Coinbase would just do this, like, okay, guys, you guys are right. Like, it's Bitcoin. No. They see the Gemini card, they see Fold, right? They see these other companies, they see MicroStrategy's performance. And they're at the end of the day, because it's a public company, they're beholden to their shareholders, right? So
Yeah.
Brian Armstrong has to, prove like he knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of pressure. Like over the years, ByteFederal has had opportunities to take on investment, and those investors, that capital, they didn't really understand Bitcoin either, and they wanted diversified portfolios. They wanted to see that you offered more than one thing. They saw that just offering one coin was a risk because they didn't really understand the protocol. So I can understand to a certain level how Coinbase went down this path to get where they are today. But like you said, in every cycle, Bitcoin continues and the altcoins continue to underperform. So I don't think there's been a single altcoin that has outperformed Bitcoin in more than one cycle. So over the long term, people are learning the lesson, and they're getting the message. They're receiving the signal. The Bitcoin is the real change, and the Bitcoin is the true signal. So I've tried to tell many people over the years to stay out of that game and just stack as much Bitcoin, because I made that same mistake, right? I lost a lot of money with altcoins thinking in my early days in 2017. But you're going to learn one way or another. Usually you learn from pain. That's the part of being human. You hurt yourself, you get in trouble, you make mistakes, you learn, and hopefully you change.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, man. It's so much easier just to stay humble, stack sats, stay solvent. We've been echoing that message for many years here at Simply Bitcoin. Opti, I'm going to pass it on to you, my friend. What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, well, I'm taking a much more cynical view here. Like Paul said and Nico were saying, they are doing a good job marketing Bitcoin, but personally, it just feels like a orange rebrand here because selling shitcoins is not the sell it used to be. And Coinbase, even though they are making some good commercials right now and they are putting it in front of, different eyes, a whole new audience, and I'll give them that W right there. And the Coinbase card does sound interesting, but I think Winsome said in the chat, I don't think a 65 IQ with a really bad credit score could probably get that credit card. But hey, you know, there's still some good things there. But there's been some other things that I've seen on Twitter in the last couple of days that don't make me so hyped about what Coinbase is doing. One, they just hired I'll put it this way, a shady political advisor to be an advisor on the board of Coinbase, which, again, I didn't have time to go check out all the details for you guys. And then second, they just unleashed every shitcoin ever to be sold on Coinbase via some kind of decentralized exchange protocol thing. I don't know. So yes, I'll give them a W of their orange rebrand with their Bitcoin marketing and their Bitcoin commercials. We all know it's Bitcoin, but they literally just unleash shitcoins on the masses. Like every shitcoin ever created is now being possible to be bought on Coinbase. It's an L.
I'm going to push back on Opti for a sec as people.
You're wrong, but okay.
Give me the appropriate
Get
soundboard.
out of here.
Give me the appropriate soundboard.
Yeah, I got you the appropriate one right here.
You are fake news.
That's you. So anyways, I do want to give a shout out to live stream. 1,800 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X, and 355 of you guys watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Anyways, going back to Opti's point, no, I disagree. Dude, no one's making that level of media in Bitcoin.
I agreed with you.
And
I said the marketing's great.
Not only that, like they're not only are they making that level of media, but they're putting that on like legacy media. So like that's on people's TV networks, and those are the commercials they're seeing.
We're not disagreeing. I admitted that.
So it's a
but then they're unleashing a whole new literally unleashing every shitcoin possible on Coinbase. So yeah,
exactly.
You know, sell Bitcoin on your platform, and then you get on the platform, and then you're inundated with like 21 million shitcoins. I mean, hey,
yeah,
I'll give him the W, but there's some L's.
I mean, obviously, and this is why we recommend Bitcoin Well, right? Which is a Bitcoin only on ramp, you know, self custody by default. But, you know, at the same time, bro, as people that have committed their lives to propagating the big, listen, you guys have to understand, when me and Opti got into this game, right? Like the only people that were making content was like Andreas and Max and Stacy, right? Like that was it. There was literally nothing. It was like a bunch of altcoin channels, but there was no Bitcoin only content, right? So like, you know, seeing that, like the infancy of Bitcoin only media, which was like 2020, to like where we are now, and I'm seeing professionally done commercial. I'm telling you, that commercial cost a fortune. That was a 30-second commercial, but I'm telling you, from a production standpoint, it was a lot of money, right? The voice actor, the graphics, the blah, the this, and it was extremely effective. So, I mean, like, I get what you're saying, because what you're saying is true, but simultaneously, you know, they aren't advocating for, you know, the altcoins on that commercial. They're advocating for Bitcoin.
Yeah, but then you go on their platform and you're inundated with shitcoins.
This is also true, which is why we recommend bitcoinwell.com/simply. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a hell of a show. Some news dropped last night. We are on YouTube, so we're going to be careful with our wording and our framing, but the TLDR war sucks. And we're going to be making the case as to why Bitcoin ends wars, and, you know, a world on a Bitcoin standard where governments no longer have the ability to just create money out of thin air actually ends this endless cycle that I think humanity has been going through for the past 100 years. The Ron Paul quote comes to mind, right? It's not a coincidence that the century of central banking is also the bloodiest century in human history. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive on that, because I think yesterday was very consequential from a historical standpoint. So let's cover it. We're going to get to it in the news segment. We'll be right back in just 1 second. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Casa makes self-custody easy and secure. As a Bitcoiner, I care about holding my own private keys, but multi-sig can sometimes get tricky. Casa nails it with a multi-key security. So even if one key gets lost or stolen, your Bitcoin stays safe. And you don't give up custody, meaning no one could access your Bitcoin but you. No seed phrase anxiety, no single point of failure. I've been telling my friends and family about Casa for years. Their UX and UI on their app is by far the best in the industry. Inheritance planning is built in, and they even offer Casa for Business if you're thinking about a Bitcoin treasury. Hit up casa.io today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium. Head over to casa.io. I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSPT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store. All right, everybody, use the QR code on your screen right now. Take you directly to the Cold Card website. And this is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market. And Opti is not holding it in his hand right now. Cold Card Q, it's easy to use. It's fantastic. Open source, 2 secure elements. Guys, get yourself one today. Scan the QR code on your screen. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the coldcard.com store. Anyways, some events happened in the Middle East yesterday. Just the Middle East has been at war for so long. I would say the world has been at war for so long. And my message to this is very simple. Buy Bitcoin and war. And what I mean by that, we're going to kind of dive deep into that topic, did a little bit of research, did a little bit of prep. And I want to take advantage of the fact that we have Paul on the show to chime in. And this was my initial response yesterday, and the post actually absolutely blew up. I won't be able to say the second line, but basically, frustrating. It's frustrating because at the end of the day, I think most human beings on planet Earth just want to get by. They just want to feed their family. They just want to provide, and they just want to live, and they just want to, get going, right? But this fiat money printer fuels things. It fuels horrible things, right? We were talking a little bit about that in the opening segment. Essentially, how we have an unmeritocratic society not based on meritocracy, a society where the middle class has been hollowed out, essentially. And there are also other effects to a world on a fiat standard. So this is what I posted last night. I said, another war brought to you by politicians with money printers. Fiat is a cult. And then, of course, Lynn Alden posting, she's referencing the fourth turning. And the last time we were in a fourth turning, ladies and gentlemen, it was actually back in World War II. And thing is, with fourth turnings is because the generations are so far apart, the world forgets the lessons of the past. And what people have to remember, what people have to understand, I'm going to pull up this picture. I actually have this picture as one of my revolving wallpaper on my laptop. And essentially, it's just a bunch of brave American soldiers heading onto the beach, Normandy, D-Day, and it was, and you can make an argument it was for a noble cause. The United States was attacked, Pearl Harbor. But what people forget is that the United States built a machine to fight World War II. And that machine hasn't been dismantled. In fact, the president who was one of the key generals in World War II warned about this machine in his farewell address.
Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
So ever since he gave that historic speech, first time mentioning the, World War II machine, the aka military industrial complex, the United States has been in a constant war for the last 70 years, basically, right? Korean War, Vietnam War, all the wars in between, the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, Ukraine War, the proxy war, and then this current situation that's happening in the Middle East. And you have to ask yourself, you're like, Nico, what the F does this have to do with Bitcoin? Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, dude, this isn't a history channel. This isn't a history show. What are you talking about? I'm going to make the case for you guys today that by buying Bitcoin, you end war. By the world transitioning to a Bitcoin standard, wars end. Why? Fiat currencies give the state the power to print money to fund wars without immediate taxation and consent from the population. This hidden war tax allows conflicts to be prolonged far beyond what people would tolerate if they were paying directly. Bitcoin, with a fixed supply and decentralized issuance, eliminates this tool. Governments would be forced to finance wars transparently, either through taxation or voluntary borrowing, making endless wars politically unviable. Now, the other thing is it changes the incentive. In a sound money regime, violence becomes expensive and cooperation becomes more profitable. Bitcoin encourages international trade and voluntary exchange over conquest because plunder can't be easily monetized or laundered through central banks. Bitcoin also gives sovereign monetary power back to individuals and reduces the reliance on national currencies. The decentralization of financial power weakens centralized authorities' ability to command obedience and fund total war. In a Bitcoin standard world, coercive taxation and capital controls become unenforceable, undercutting the state's war apparatus at its root. And remember, this is something that Dwight D. Eisenhower, one of the generals in Europe that was responsible for the victory of the United States in World War II in Europe, that was eventually elected president, he warned because he's like, oh my God, we built this giant machinery to fight this war. And he said a key thing in that speech. Did you catch that, Opti? He said spiritual. That is I'm getting chills when I'm saying that. It's a very powerful word to mention. Now, before I pass it on to Paul, I do kind of want to give a little bit of a contrast, right? So, okay, you'd say, Nico, but like, hold on a second. wars have always been a thing. Like, that's like kind of human nature. Like, what are you talking about? Like, buy Bitcoin and wars, like, that's ludicrous. Well, that's not how it always worked. Back in the medieval like era, specifically, I'm going to bring up the 100 Years' War. Essentially, the wars would end when the kings ran out of money. So I'll give you a couple examples. So King Edward III's war effort was stalled multiple times due to lack of funds. Each phase of the 100 Years' War saw military pauses or treaties, often because one side ran out of money or couldn't pay the soldiers. In the pre-fiat hard money era, especially during the Middle Ages, the king's ability to wage war was directly tied to his treasury. No gold or silver meant no soldiers, no supplies, and no war. So this is what I'm talking about, right? I'm not saying that Bitcoin will get rid of wars altogether, but what fiat allows is hidden taxation that allows the funding of war without the population being aware of it. And if you look at the economic cost of the Iraq and the Afghanistan war, I'm not going to get into the justifications of those wars. They're to the tune of trillions of dollars that it cost the American people, right? And imagine if those trillions of dollars were redirected to jobs, infrastructure, like actually not destruction and death and doom, but optimistic, hopeful, prosperic projects, right? It would completely change the game. So yeah, man, I'm going to stick to my messaging. After what I saw last night, I'm sick and tired of this. Buy Bitcoin, end war, fix the money, fix the world, full stop. That's it. Paul, I'm going to pass it on. Paul, I'm going to pass it on to you, man. Like, dude, I'm just sick and tired of this, bro. And I'm not trying to justify. And it seems like people are liking this too because the live stream numbers went up. People like, dude, like I'm just tired of it, man. Like, look, and I'm not trying to take any side. I don't have any skin in that rate. I don't have like, I just, it's not what we're about as a Bitcoin channel. Like, we're not here to comment politically and say this side or this side, which is why I've left everything out. I've just focused on American history and all that. But, fiat fuels endless wars, right?
Absolutely.
Fiat fuels destruction, right? And Bitcoin on a sound money standard, as I pointed out to you guys, completely takes away that ability, right?
Yeah. So the sound money standard, like you said, makes it harder to fund wars. But there's another aspect to Bitcoin that is so important. And hopefully this illustrates the point for all the people that are buying the ETFs and buying shares of companies. The fact that you can hold your own keys is what really turns up the dial on war prevention. Because there were a lot of wars fought simply to seize the gold of your enemy. And even though we were on a hard money standard, it was profitable to take the risk to go get that gold. And there's still gold buried from the losers of wars that we have not found, right? So countries that have lost and that have buried their resources so that their enemy doesn't get it, and we don't know where it is. Or it's lost forever. So it's the private keys, your ability to self-custody, the ability for a government to lock that Bitcoin in a way that their enemy cannot seize it. That's also a big incentive to prevent war. Going to, I forget, I saw in the post, I think it was Elaine Lowell said, all wars are banker wars. And that's such an important comment because when you look at history, not only of the United States, but of Europe, you begin to see that bankers have the incentive to push for war. And so let me describe that. And I think if you want a really good explanation of this, go watch Alex Craner describe it on Gold Palisades Radio. in that as banks issue debt, they need to have that debt backed by collateral in order to be solvent. So from that perspective, as you start to build out a debt-based economy in, say, Europe, and then that expands to the US and you fill that up in the US, now you start to look for additional resources and territories where you can make loans. That's why we have global bankers. That's why a lot of bankers are globalist, because they use that military industrial complex, and I would add to that military industrial intelligence complex, in order to implement regime change, carrots and sticks, to implement economic hitmen in order to get more resources that they can lend against. So when a bank has achieved max debt issuance in a jurisdiction, bankers, and I'm speaking mostly about central banks, they're incentivized, especially as those economies start to falter and they start to see risks in their balance sheet, to go out, create wars, back wars that are going to give them more territory, more resources, more assets to lend against. So they drive this forward, and it is the cancer at the root of the problem. So this is why Bitcoin was created, right? Bitcoin was created to separate money from state. It's all about killing central banks.
Yep, 100%.
So, this is the number one thing, the most passive protest we've ever, and the best opportunity we've ever had to do a peaceful protest against war, which is also against fiat, also against central banking, all
Amen.
of which are aligned in creating the destruction. As far as war itself is concerned, I'm disgusted by it. It absolutely is just maddening. And if I had a golden wand, I would never let a policymaker take us to war if they weren't willing to put themselves and their family on the front lines with anyone holding that gun. The soldiers that protect us and take that action into their own hands, God bless them. But I think many of them are waking up to the fact that the politicians putting them in that position are oftentimes not doing it for the right reasons.
Amen.
I'm in full belief of protecting our borders and having a strong defense. am in no way support of colonization, spreading democracy. Those things need to happen within the countries themselves. They need to come from their people. And we can cheer for them. We can help them. We can provide them property rights through Bitcoin. We can provide them access to decentralized finance. But it has to be grassroots from the ground up. And we have to stop playing this game.
Amen.
Now listen, that's called motherfucking boy.
And you said something really important there, Paul. You said many things that are important there. I want to focus on a couple of them, which is you mentioned basically in a non-coercive means. So this is optional. This is voluntary. It's not spreading democracy through coercive means. By the way, spreading democracy to cultures and people that perhaps they just don't understand democracy, right? And that is something to point out. And I just want to give a shout out to our troops here in the United States, right? Who signed up and put their lives on the line, for their country. But I don't think that, the justifications were based on, the justifications as to why we were sending those troops where were the actual reasons, right? Like you guys have to understand, like the United States, after experiencing World War I, this is why this picture is so powerful, and I have it as my desktop, as one of my desktop pictures. The United States, after experiencing World War One, we did not want to go to war. Like it was very difficult for FDR to get the United States involved in World War II. It was only until Japan attacked Pearl Harbor where essentially the United States got involved, right? So, all those young men that you see storming the beach in Normandy, basically in a hail of gunfire, MG-42, they did it with the understanding that their country was attacked, right? That hasn't been the case, right? That hasn't been the case. And you can make the argument for kind of 9/11 and all that stuff, but I don't think Iraq had anything to do with 9/11, right? So, it's kind of like, a lot of a lot of casualties, a lot of nihilism, not to mention like, the mental health issues that a lot of these vets have to go through once they come back, right? Like, this has to stop. This has to stop. And the way we stop it, as Paul so correctly pointed out, was through a peaceful, non-coercive way and through a silent, peaceful protest of opting out. All you got to do is opt out. And if enough of the population opt out into Bitcoin, it takes away the ability for the central banks to continue funding this death and destruction, right?
I would just add a little something extra there. You do need to opt out with the money, but you also need to understand lawful versus legal. And if you look at the founding of this country, some of the founding fathers, many of them understood this. And we came to this country to flee central bank authoritarianism and to try and break this cycle. We were opting out by coming to this country. And that system, the legal system of Europe, followed us here. And we fought. Many presidents were assassinated, and we fought wars over the prevention of the creation of a central bank here. That was lost in 1913. And since that time, we have lost a lot of our traditional republic values and now operate with a democracy set on top of the republic. And this has created a situation where I saw somebody else mention in the comments that we are all seen as enemies of the state. And I think that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is we're all seen as chattel for the state. And we need to take back our sovereignty as people so that we can stand up against this organized attack, which is not American, meaning the attack on the American people. We all have a power and a liberty, and Bitcoin is the torch that's burning for that, for us to return to that. But we have to take that torch, and we have to be willing to speak that openly and freely in order to reattain that power as sovereign citizens in this country. If we don't do that, they will try and co-opt the system once again.
100%. 100%.
It's ongoing.
100%. And the way that you do this, ladies and gentlemen, is, again, you do this peacefully, and you do this by earning Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin, taking that Bitcoin, put it into self-custody. If enough of us do this, we win, and there's nothing anyone else could do about it. It's about individuals reclaiming back their financial sovereignty so it cannot be debased. That's really what it comes down to. Individuals reclaiming their sovereignty, their power, their work, their time back. And, this previous election, right, you saw essentially, with Operation Choke Point 2.0, how certain elements of the government are against Bitcoin. And make no mistake, they're against Bitcoin because They don't want people reclaiming back their sovereignty. And Paul's absolutely right. You know, the amount of freedoms that have been essentially been taken away since the establishment of the Federal Reserve, like it's been a like it's just like you can look at it from a historical basis, right? And even with the introduction of the federal income tax, that originally was proposed as a tax for the we've heard this before, right? For the very wealthy, and it was a 3% tax. By the time World War II came around, right, the top income tax was 90%. And it wasn't until Ronald Reagan where it was moved back down again, right? So, like, you know, that's crazy. Think about that for a second, right? You know, you spend half your time, like, if you think about it on a yearly basis, right? You work for a year, and let's say your effective income tax rate is 25% or 37%. You're spending 37% of the year working for the state or working for the government. And then you have to ask yourself, like, what am I getting for that? Where are they sending that money? Where is that money being used for? Right. And then that's kind of like a deep rabbit hole. Right. So something happened in 1913 that we have to address. And I don't think there's a traditional political solution to this, in the sense of, I don't think it's so entrenched. So many people rely on this fiat system, right, that are in positions of power, that I don't think that kind of voting yourself out of it is going to work in that sense. I think the true way forward is a mass protest, peaceful protest of individuals reclaiming back their financial sovereignty by buying Bitcoin, earning Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin, and putting that Bitcoin into self-custody. That's what I think. That's my opinion, right? Anyways, guys, we still have a hell of a...
Hey, wait, Nico, before... Yeah. I'm not gonna rehash anything you guys said, because that was a great rip. But for those of you guys wondering what the effects will be on Bitcoin, I did see this great chart. Shouts out to Andre Dragosh, I believe. And he goes, no, across the past top 20 geopolitical risk events since Bitcoin's inception, Bitcoin was up, checks notes, plus 64.6% on average 50 days after the risk event, and a plus 17.3% median. So plan accordingly, guys. If you're selling your Bitcoin right now, you're doing this thing wrong.
Absolutely. If you're selling your Bitcoin in general, you're doing it wrong.
Anyways, don't sell your Bitcoin.
Don't sell your Bitcoin. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a hell of a show. We got Paul in the house, CEO of ByteFederal. We're going to be talking to him during the culture segment. We will be right back in just a second. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledin has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending, with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally not only have an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledin is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially, what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you today. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 0.25% off their first loan by using the link in the video/podcast description. What are you waiting for? Head over to ledin.io today. All right, everybody, we are back, and we're joined here with Paul, CEO of ByteFederal. Again, one of the largest Bitcoin ATM companies operating in the United States. Paul, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Been enjoying our conversation so far, man. We've covered so many topics, from Michael Saylor to the deep rabbit hole of what fiat enables. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
Appreciate it. So, Paul, I mean, Opti?
Yeah, Paul. So, I mean, maybe let's do a short. What is ByteFederal for the people that don't know what ByteFederal is? Obviously, if they've been on the show, you've heard ByteFederal. But if you're new here, let's do a short. What is ByteFederal? And then we're going to talk about some breaking news that you just announced this week.
Sure. ByteFederal started in 2016 as a Bitcoin ATM company. We build all of our kiosks ourselves here in the United States. So we manufacture and assemble them here in Florida. We've distributed them across 42 states in the United States, where we are also the operator. So, we own the whole stack. We've also developed a wallet and a POS system. Right now, we have a non-custodial wallet where you hold your own private keys. We have a fully custodial wallet that'll be coming out later this summer, which will be the easy button for new entrants to the Bitcoin space. And then lastly, our POS system. We have about 45 clients in beta right now using that system in different restaurants, stores, you name it. And we have a very unique relationship with a new organization called NEO. And NEO is building an MLS real estate platform for new construction. So publicly traded builders and large developers on the new estate only platform, if they have customers that want to pay in Bitcoin, we can make that happen.
Let's go. Absolutely love it. All right. Well, let's get to the breaking news, Paul. It's been all the rage right now, and everyone's been talking about it. Bitcoin Conference 2025 was basically two conversations: stablecoins and Bitcoin treasury companies. Mm-hmm. And you guys just recently joined Bitcoin for Corporation. So why did you guys take that step?
We took that step because it aligned with our mission, right? So we started buying. We had before my tenure, we had a pretty significant Bitcoin reserve during some tough financial times with Choke Point 2.0. Unfortunately, that was liquidated. So we started rebuilding it in December of 2024. We're buying Bitcoin out of our cash flow. And, we're just getting started. We want to ramp that up, right? We want to hit 100 Bitcoin by the end of 2025. And with that goal in mind, partnering with Bitcoin for Corporations was a natural. This is where the game is happening. This is where the smartest players in the space are coming together to optimize building a strategic reserve of their own. So we're on that mission, and we're excited to be a part of the club.
Amazing. That's incredible. And I love the fact that you guys are stacking Bitcoin, as a bootstrapped Bitcoin media company. We're on that Bitcoin treasury strategy as well, trying to accumulate as much as we can, of course, with the cash flow. And it's a cheat sheet for a company. And that's, I think, the message that I want to get across, Paul, because I think people misunderstand. Okay, so I'll break it down like this. And I'm going to connect it with the Coinbase ad, right? Like, where they're like, look, like your house on fiat, it's just getting more and more expensive. But on Bitcoin, it's getting more and more cheaper. Okay, as a business owner, what keeps me up at night, right? Making payroll every month, right? So could you imagine this? On fiat, payroll. Ooh, on Bitcoin, payroll. Right? So it just extends your runway. It just makes your runway longer. Specifically, the longer you hold, the more benefits you'll have from accumulating that Bitcoin earlier on, right? And then all of a sudden, 5-10 years from now, you'll find your company in a position where, like, let's say you accumulate 10 coins or 100 coins, like you guys are saying, right? Like, and Bitcoin hits $1 million per coin, $5 million per coin. You're literally sitting on $50 million, right? Yep. That can make payroll for like 100 years, right? So like, this is the stuff that I'm talking about. And then you can invest that money into R&D. You can invest that money into buying more machines, putting them in different locations, perhaps expanding internationally, right? So it puts you in a very advantageous position as a business owner that I think people underappreciate. So the fact that you guys are, one of the first to the punch, I think is going to put you guys in a very advantageous position.
Yeah, we think so too. It's we're unique in that we are profitable. We have cash flow, and we can use that to buy the best asset in the world. We're lucky enough to be in a position where we can realize that. So, and for people that might be considering doing this for their own, it doesn't. Your business is not too small to start this. Everybody can do this, and like Nico said, starting as soon as possible puts you in a much better position down the road. You'll always benefit from buying more Bitcoin, but the sooner you get started, the more rapid the benefit will hit the bottom line. And once you eclipse a certain level, there's going to be strategies that you can apply where you can use your Bitcoin to acquire more Bitcoin, and you're going to start to see the snowball effect. And build that balance sheet out now, because the products and services that are coming to market for companies and individuals, a whole lot of Bitcoin, is massive. This is just beginning its financialization phase, and we're all going to have a whole new set of tools to do business with in the next 5-10 years. So get it while you can.
Absolutely. I mean, it is the best form of collateral the world has ever seen. And to add to your point, Paul, the tools to use that collateral we haven't even hit the surface of that, right? What you're going to be able to do with your Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, it's extremely exciting. Congratulations to ByteFederal. That's absolutely massive. Joining Bitcoin for corporations on the executive level. That's amazing. Very, very bullish on ByteFederal. And Paul, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure. You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me.
Sweet. Opti, man, it is Friday. We made it across the line. It's been another crazy week. Opti and Sophie filled in for me yesterday because I was just burnt.
He's lazy. Rage, got him.
I literally wear all the hats in this company.
Cap.
Nico messages me at all hours of the day, so I know he's not lazy.
Yeah, he literally does that to everyone.
Opti wears one hat. I wear
5 hats.
I wear 7. I wear 12.
Well, you're winning on that one. I wear 5.
Anyways, this isn't what I signed up for, dude. I wanted to be a content creator, and they're like, "Yo, Nico, you're a CEO now." And I'm like, "What?" So this is my year and 6 months into CEO stuff. Lots of lessons along the way.
We've grown up.
But dude, yeah, it was a lot easier when I was a host, man. That was a lot fun. That was a lot more funner. Anyways, guys, if you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button, consider subscribing. And of course, I'm joined here with my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, our special guest for today, Paul, CEO of ByteFederal. Go check out ByteFederal.com if you want to find out more information. And of course, guys, enjoy the weekend. Go outside, get some sun, touch some grass, enjoy your family, and we'll see you tomorrow. I will see you on Monday for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.